Let's have a little talk about radar in Linux Air Combat. I'm using version 5.01 from late September of 2017. In the future, I expect most versions will be about like this. The radar is the green circle in the middle of my cockpit there in the lower center of your display. And you can see on it, at the bottom, there's a number that says 200 km. That means it's zoomed out to 200 kilometers range. I have hotkeys that I can configure to zoom that in and out, and if I press the one labeled zoom out, I can zoom all the way out to 500 kilometers. When I press on the zoom in, it goes from 200 kilometers, 50 kilometers, 35, 25, 20 kilometers, 16 kilometers, even all the way down to 8 kilometers. Since there's nothing within 8 kilometer range, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Let's take it to 50 kilometers and see what's going on. Now, notice that the dots are in various colors. Some are red and some are green. In all of the online multiplayer missions, all players are either on a red team or on a blue team. And also there are bots. If there are no players, the 10 available positions are occupied by bots. In this case, let me zoom out a little more. The bots, I go out to be able to stay at 50 miles. In this case, I've got one other player. I'm player number 1. Notice in the lower left, in the left side, it says my network ID is red 1, and I'm now targeting field red 29. Notice in the router panel, occasionally you'll see a flash for player number 2. There are 2 players in this mission. I'm player number 1, and blue 2 is the other player. I'm going to target blue 2 by hitting my target next indicator a couple of times. Target next, target next, target next, target next. There it is. Oh, target 28. I still can't get him. He's too far out. Zooming out to 500 mile range. And let's select target next. There we are, blue 2. You can see now that the white dot indicates it's been selected. Notice as I do target previous, that's red 29, and target next takes me to number 2. Here's red 3, blue 4, red 5, blue 6, red 7, blue 8, red 9, blue 10, blue 28, red 29, and back to blue 2 again. So I can cycle between the targets, and as they do, you can see the white dot moves to the associated numeric value. Now I'm going to zoom my range in from 200 miles to 50. Oh, it's still too far out. So back to 200 miles. When he gets within 50 miles, we'll be able to see him, his dot still on that radar display. Notice I can also see his altitude. In the left side of my panel, there's a field called tar alt. Tells me that he's flying at 8,700 feet. I'm at 6,100 feet, and I'd like to get above him, so I'm going to climb a little bit so we can get above him. Zooming my radar range in now to 50 miles. Still, he's off the scale. There he is, just on scale. He's now 50 kilometers away from me, and he's at my 11 o'clock, and he's a little higher than me, so he's at my 11 o'clock high. I'm going to use my rudder to just scoot straight toward him. And again, you can see now I'm going to zoom in from 50 miles, 35 miles, he's off the scale. At 200 miles, he's near the center of the screen. At 500 miles, he's clearly near the center of my display. Zooming into 200 miles now, zooming into 50 kilometers. I say miles, I mean kilometers. Zooming into 35 kilometers now. He's about 34 kilometers away from me, and I've almost climbed to his altitude. I'm going to try to get above him. I'm also going to activate my speed brakes, because in a P-38, I'll be diving on him, and I don't want to pick up too much. I don't want to lose control from high speed. Let's zoom in a little more. 35 mile range there at a 25 kilometer range. I used to always say miles, but I should be talking about kilometers here. That's the accurate range. He's about 21 miles out now, I guess. Now, while we're talking about radar, I can also talk about IFF. If I press I to turn off identify friend or foe, all those colors go away. Turning it back on again, that turns on IFF. Pressing I again turns off IFF. Turning it back on. Let's zoom out a little more. At the 50 mile or at the 200 kilometer range, you can see if I turn off IFF, all the blue and red indications are gone, and I would have to just guess who's who. Turning it back on again, zooming in my range. Here's 25 kilometer range, 20 kilometer range, 16 kilometer range. So he's about 15 kilometers away from me now, and I'm comfortably above him. Unfortunately, I'm flying right into the sun, so I have a little sun blindness. But we'll be able to dive on him fairly soon and solve that problem. But what you've got now is this has been a pretty good discussion of how the radar works. Now I'm headed straight south, and evidently the target is also headed nearly south. So we're not overtaking him very fast, but we will. We'll get him. 16 kilometers. Watch. In about maybe half a minute or so, we'll be able to see him visually. I'm doing 270 kilometers. I don't know, kilometers per hour in speed, 279 kilometers per hour speed. I don't know how fast he's going, but looks like we are slowly overtaking him. And that's good. Still got 79% fuel left. As you can see, you rely on radar. You rely on radar a lot. Now, also notice in the router panel, you can see more packets from player number 2. I'm player number 1, and you can see packets from me are very frequent. And as we get closer and closer, the packets from player number 2 get more frequent also. And that's the way it should be. The closer another player is, the more packets you will receive from him per second from the server. Let's zoom into 8 kilometers now. 7 kilometer range. My radar is now at 7 kilometer range, and we're way above him. So I'm gonna lose some altitude. We'll try to dive on him and see him. We should be able to see him below us. Oh, I think I see him down there. I'm throttling back so I don't pick up too much speed. Yeah, there he is. Zooming my field of view out, I'll be able to see him now. He's hostile. He'll probably shoot at me when I get closer. That's a bomber, and he's got guns, so I'll probably take some damage here. Although when I'm coming this fast, it's awfully hard for him to hit me. But I'm going to try to hit him. Okay, this will be a battle. And I don't want to die. I got 4% damage there. If I linger around there, I'll take heavy damage. I don't know how much damage he took, but I want to get away from him. There you have it. There's a quick tour of radar and the way radar works in Linux Air Combat with the various colors and selection. The tools you need to know about, the buttons you need to know about are zoom in and out, which by default are home for zooming in and N for zooming out. You need to know about target select, which by default are N for next and P for previous. Let me zoom out a little bit here. So here's next, previous. So those are the keys you need to know. And I for IFF. With IFF off, you can't distinguish the detail you have with it on. And of course, R turns radar on or off. If you want to simulate an accurate World War II experience, you might fly with radar off and just do everything visually. So R and I, and here's home to zoom in, and here's N to zoom out. So zoom in, zoom out. That's radar.